Okay, so you probably saw the camera going down and all that. I got hit with some tear gas, and one of the cops nailed me with his billy club, but it hurt like, you know what, I've never been hit by tear gas that close. I've been in tear gas before, but this was right in my face. I literally couldn't breathe.
So what we need to do is first stabilize the bleeding and then...
What is it to get in touch with 911?
Okay, so I am just gonna videotape this really quickly. This is the cops hitting my car with a rubber bullet as we were trying to leave. And obviously we couldn't drive any faster because there were cars in front of us. There was no way for us to get out. So this is their response.
So what's up, guys? I got shot in the head. My brain's bleeding. Should be okay. If I don't respond, it's because I'm just really tired, but I should be all right.
But I've been doing journalism for, a couple decades now. I'm 49 years old, so been at it for a while. I have to say, what's going on right now in the country, the civil unrest, it's not coming out of the blue. I think if anyone that's been paying attention is not going to be surprised by this. It's the perfect storm because you've had literally both parties feed the flames of racism, systemic racism, and income inequality. And now coming into the situation where you see the video of the cops are absolutely committing murder. This is not a controversial statement. That's exactly what's happening here. And you couple that with the solidarity from groups that are also battling things like fighting insurance companies for Medicare for all. Like, this is absolutely the perfect storm for revolution, in my opinion. So I think that's what we're seeing, and I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon.
Yeah. So what was it like?
As I'm talking to you, my phone, do you hear this?
Yeah, no worries.
No, as I'm talking to you, this is actually, County of LA is ordering a curfew. So we've been getting these all day. They think that they're going to end what's going on by doing this, and they're not. It's just taking up steam. They've done so many things that are wrong. I don't even know where to begin. The LAPD has a history of being very murderous. I would say it's one of the worst departments in the country. Obviously, the New York Police Department is very awful too. But Daryl Gates, go back to the 80s, and you can see there's just been a consistent problem with racism in the department and police brutality. I think the only thing that's changed, and in a way, it's a good thing that it's changed, and it's also unfortunate that it took this to have it change. But I think seeing what happened on Saturday has really opened up the minds and hearts of people that thought maybe, well, you still have these folks still clinging to this idea that the police are all good and, well, maybe they're all just looters and they need to be stopped. But I think the fact that you had the police department targeting press with intention has changed that narrative a lot. It's unfortunate that that's what it took. We should have been angry about this stuff 20 years ago. They were attacking brutally.
Well, Tina, it's not only what they... Sorry to interrupt you, but it's not only what they're doing to you, what they did to you, and you can get more in depth as the interview goes on about that. They've also been doing it to mainstream media people. They arrested people. I think
the CNN arrest.
Yeah, the CNN arrest.
On air, no less.
Yeah, on air, correct.
And then you started to see all of these events taking place across the country. And it was the next morning where I started seeing this. I'm like, wow, they're really targeting the press in every situation. And the only explanation that seems obvious to me is that we were recording stuff that they didn't want to get out to the public. And it was obvious on Saturday that the LAPD started the violence. The sheriff had been there earlier. I'm not going to defend the sheriff's department. They also were engaging in some bullshit. But when the LAPD showed up is when things really got out of control.
What time did you get there?
I want to say about 2:30. I'm not certain because I had gone to the East LA protest earlier in the day, which was in Boyle Heights. And that was a very calm. There wasn't a large police presence there. It was, people giving their speeches, showing solidarity. Your typical just normal protest that you would see. Then we decided we needed to go cover the other one as well. So we get there, and at first it was just, protesters. And it almost seemed actually like it was starting to dissipate because there had been a larger crowd and there were still folks there with their signs, etc. And then just mayhem started breaking out. I have a theory on some stuff about why they chose to take a stand here. We were behind the Grove, which is a shop center. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a certain element of the police being an arm of protecting the plutonomy. And there was concern, my guess is there was concern of the area that they were in. We've had protests and riots break out before in other parts of the city, whether it's been East LA, the poor parts of downtown, South Central, et cetera. And you wouldn't have seen this sort of instigation that we saw. Cause I want to say that the LAPD absolutely instigated everything that came after that. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like it was preemptive is what so I think that what we saw was a preemptive strike. Like, in 92, when we had riots, the LAPD, after being completely brutal, actually let the city burn. They didn't seem to have any regard for any of the things that were going on, looting, they had curfews, but they didn't go into neighborhoods and protect property or do anything. But here you saw them preemptively striking a peaceful crowd. And I'd like to imagine that's because we were behind the Grove, which is a high-end shopping center, and we're adjacent to wealthier neighborhoods, right? They don't care about Boyle Heights. I mean, that's just a fucked up, pardon me, can I cuss? Reality.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm like, can I cuss? Am I allowed to cuss? But they had, one of the things that really kind of blew my mind is they had snipers stationed on top of a Jewish synagogue there, and they started shooting rubber bullets into the crowd. Then they started forming a line and shooting rubber bullets. They started throwing out tear gas. One of the tear gases I heard one of the sheriffs say he was using was something called a triple chaser, and this is a military item, right? It's sold by a defense contractor. It's dangerous. It's killed people. It can be lethal. It's a large canister. It separates in 3 directions. So they don't have very much control over where those other canister goes.
Well, that's a war crime, isn't it, to use tear gas?
Yeah, it should be. Because I've been in situations where tear gas has been used before, but I've never had one drop in front of me that close. And you absolutely cannot breathe. Like, you're gasping to get air into your lungs and it's not coming. When I fell on the ground, I literally was lying there thinking, wow, this is how it ends. Like, this is it, right? And and imagine that experience has been lived over and over and over again by the Black community. So how is it that this has taken so long to finally maybe hopefully get addressed in some way is beyond me. But one of the things that was going on yesterday, there was a protest at Garcetti's house, and part of that was because half of the budget, the city of LA budget, goes to the police department. How does this make sense? So they can buy more military stuff to treat their civilians like enemy combatants? I mean, what's going on here? So I'm glad that this stuff is finally getting discussed on a broader level. It's unfortunate that it took them attacking white people and journalists for that to happen. But here we are.
Well, Tina, I want to talk about this. While you were there was a girl that I saw through the video, and it's on Status Quo on their YouTube page. And if you have that footage, we'll definitely try to get it on here. There was a girl that got shot in the face.
So actually, there was more than one now I've spoken to. So you, in that video, you see a girl's face, and you also see another girl getting attacked. Those are actually two separate victims. Maybe, I don't know if that was clear. We were trying to show like this happened multiple times.
Yeah.
And there was also a kid that got shot in the head by a rubber bullet who is currently in ICU at Cedars-Sinai. I spoke with his dad yesterday. I'm getting him some footage so that if he chooses to go after the LAPD for this, he has that evidence. But this is insanity. You're shooting these protesters in the head with these lethal weapons, and now he has a brain bleed and he's in ICU. What did he do wrong to deserve that?
Yeah, just was on the ground protesting.
He's using his First Amendment right to protest you guys murdering somebody, and this is your response? It's unacceptable.
So what, when you spoke to that boy's father, or that man's father, how old was he anyway?
He's in his 20s. I'm not entirely, wow. He's a young kid. He's a Marine. Guy, yeah. He's a Marine.
Wow.
Which makes it even more like you think that they would have some respect for that. You could even see his Marine tattoo exposed on the video. So
is he in critical condition, or what is his status?
He was. He's out of critical condition. He's not in critical condition anymore. They need to monitor the brain bleed though. So they don't. I guess they're afraid of clotting. I think the dad was telling me. But these are the stories that need to be told, because this is. I mean, what the hell? This is like attempted murder. So now we're defending murder with attempted murder. Like, there's no part of how the LAPD behaved that's, in my opinion, defensible.
So the girl that got hit in the face was a rubber bullet, correct?
Yeah. So I'm not we're not sure. It could have been a rubber bullet, or it also could have been an actual tear canister. Because here's the problem: before, they're projectiles, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a helmet on or eye protection, if you get hit by one of those canisters, that too can be very deadly and lethal. Like, there's literally no part of what they were doing that was acceptable. Like, I mean, you can't tell me that they don't know that this stuff is lethal. Of course they do.
When you were on the grounds and all that stuff was flying, the tear gas and also these rubber bullets and whatever the heck else they were shooting at, I heard people were getting shot with pellet guns. That may not have been in LA.
Yeah, they seemed like, no, honestly, that's a good point. And I haven't been able to verify this, but you would hear there was a constant barrage of shooting going on. And it did seem like some of these were pellets, not the giant rubber bullets, because there was one protester sitting down peacefully, literally sitting in the street with his hands up in the air. And the video will show you, he just was being shot at, just sitting there.
Yeah.
And you can see everything just hitting him. He's going like this. He gets up and he walks away. But and they were also using different smoke grenades, flashbangs. No, it wasn't just tear gas. They were lobbing all kinds of stuff into the crowd. It was
right. So when you got it, so how did it start? We should start by saying, how did it start? Did they just start like?
I actually don't know what the initial thing that set the police off was, but from my perspective, I was filming, all of a sudden just the bullets started flying. Yeah, okay, so no. So when I got up to the police line, they had already done the initial first spraying of guns or not guns, rubber bullets, but then they backed the line up. So I went up there there was another still photographer there, I think from The Guardian. So we went back up there, and I could hear them talking on the radio, and they were talking about corralling and kettling the protesters on the other side. So they had formed, to get a visual on this, they had formed two sides, right? So there was a line on this side, a line on this side, and they had their equipment in between on the street. And so we were unaware to see what was going on the other side and vice versa, right? So they were kettling the protesters on this side. This is where Fiorella was arrested. And I could hear them saying on the radio, bring them down Ogden. I think she said the alley, we're gonna trap them in there and start making arrests. Like, so they were lying to the protesters, saying you can exit this way, when what they were actually doing was corralling them into an area where they could arrest them. So that was going on. I got some of that conversation. And as that was happening, all of a sudden, one of the police officers or law enforcement, it might've been a sheriff, said, we're going to do a 5-5-5 triple chaser. So I heard triple chaser, and I'm like, that's a grenade. That's a tear gas. And there's a conversation back and forth. And the next thing I know, they just went full on RoboCop. And at that time, here's the weird thing. At that time, most of the protesters were on the other side of the intersection. So there was a good probably 150 feet between their police line and where the front part of the protest was.
So Fiorella got caught in that area where you said that they were trying to get everybody cattle in there to try to, like, it was basically like cattle and try to
It's
get them
basically
all
like cattle.
Yeah.
And so at that particular moment, you didn't see this on video. At that particular moment, I had told my cameraman to go warn them. I'm like, here, give me the camera. Which is how I ended up getting gas with the camera in my hand, not him. I'm like, go warn the protesters that they're going to try to arrest them, that they're lying to them. Because I was thinking we can maybe help them not end up in jail, but he wasn't able to get over there. He came back and I was like, so what the hell just happened? How
many people did they get, or did they arrest, or get in that area?
I actually don't know the number. I don't.
No.
I could find that information out, I suppose, but a lot. I mean, they were pulling up the paddy wagons. Here's the weird thing. They weren't arresting people on our side, though. They were arresting them on the other side. And on our side, they were just gassing them and shooting bullets and just being very violent. I don't know why that decision was made, actually. I thought that was kind of strange.
So let's get more into this. So you have an incredible story of what happened with you. Now, you were trying to cross the street, or you could go more in depth into this, and the cop was trying to push you into the street? Or what happened with that?
All right. So we had moved the car.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, so things were escalating. They were just escalating. And I don't blame these protesters for, screw this. They're going to shoot us. We're going to start throwing stuff back. So they were picking up the spent tear gas canisters, et cetera, and throwing them back at the police department, which is, as far as I'm concerned, totally warranted. I don't know. I'm sure people get mad at me for saying that, but I'm sorry. They started the violence. People are going to have a right to defend themselves. And oppressed people, they're going to fight for their freedom, right? I mean, this is like, do we want to live in a fascist police state? That's really what's at question here. Anyway, an undercover cop, and I have no idea why he would do this, drove down the middle through the protest. Kind of a strange choice, in my opinion. And his window got hit by a water bottle. I think it was a water bottle, at least. It looked like a water bottle from my angle. And the window broke. And there were some protesters up there that automatically got slammed on the ground and arrested. But I got out of the car and came around to and they started throwing tear gas. It was hitting my car. And so I was like, why are you hitting my car? You'll see in the video, though, the sheriff came up. It was a female sheriff. She came up, I turned around, I showed her my credential, and she went like this and backs off. So she at least was like, oh, okay, fine. But then all of a sudden, about 2 minutes later, another officer came up behind me and just started yelling at me, like, get the fuck out of here. You don't belong here. And I showed him my price. He's like, I don't care if you're press. Get across the street. And as he's saying this, there's like
I saw that all the cars were coming.
Fire engines, cars are like, cop cars are coming. I'm like, if I do this, I'm going to get run over. And this was the second time I've been pushed into the street by one of these guys. So I was like, and I said to him, you don't care if I get run over?
And what did he say? Nothing.
Yeah, he said, no, I don't care. He kept yelling. You can't hear all that audio I know in the video because it was my iPhone I was using at that point, not the regular camera. Yeah. So meanwhile, my camera guy's in the car trying to film from his angle some of the stuff. And finally, the barrage of police come by and I was able to get across the street. But then as I was doing that, they started throwing stuff on my car hood, like back fender, the car hood. Like it was like.
So did they know is that because they knew it was your car? They were just
they knew it was my car because he said to me, get in your car. He told me get in my car. That's what he didn't want me there, with my camera, obviously.
How did he know that was your car?
Because he saw me get out of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming, at least. I mean.
Yeah. Wow. So that's how they broke the window. Then they were throwing shit.
No, that's the weird. I have more damage than just the window of the car. Yeah, I have some fender damage too. I just got the window replaced yesterday. No, they actually shot out my window with a rubber bullet as we were leaving. We were driving down the street trying to get out. This was probably an hour later because we reparked the car on the other side. So we were actually leaving because just things were madness. Yeah. And I figured they were eventually they had put the curfew in. I knew they were going to start arresting people on our side. I knew they had already arrested press people on the other side because Johnny and Fee called me and they said, get out of there. They're going to arrest you. I'm like, yeah, they've already broke my back window. So we wanted to leave. Anyway, we're driving down the street and these guys they're just still spraying everybody with rubber bullets that's trying to leave. And it's not just my vehicle, it's a lot of the other protesters' vehicles. And I'm in the back end of this, right? So we can't move forward because there's traffic, there's lights up ahead, right? So people are driving forward and stopping like normal. They just kept shooting for no reason. I can't understand why they were doing that. So I heard a pop and I'm like, they hit my car. I rolled down the window and I pulled out my phone again and started videotaping. And I'm like, why are you doing this? This is unnecessary. You're going to hurt my car. And I think I probably said fuck a few times. I was pretty mad at that point.
Right.
And the police officer, one of them in the line, just shot the back of my window with a rubber bullet. And it's a hatchback because I have a Honda Insight, which is like a Prius. Right. It's a hybrid. So heard that, and then you see the glass just going in our rearview mirror, and Jason's like, "Oh my God, they just shot the window."
Well, not even that. Not only the damage, but also you could have got seriously hurt. Because that glass could have flew. It could have got in your eye. You could have got
that bullet could have gone right through the windshield, really. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what this guy was thinking. It was really dangerous. So then I really got angry. Here's the thing. I realized because I went back and listened to the audio the next day, and I was like, damn, I went after this cop. And if that isn't white press privilege, I don't know what is, because I promise you right now, if I had been one of those protesters and I had yelled at the police department in the way I did, I would have been probably really harmed, not just arrested. So
now, do you have enough evidence on camera that you could try to make a case? I don't know how you could make a case.
Absolutely. I've actually been contacted by several of the attorneys that are handling. There's definitely police attorneys handling pro bono cases on behalf of the protesters, and in fact, they need bail money. So if anybody is able to donate to the bail fund, I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of these folks are being charged with serious felonies and they need to be bailed out, and these are protesters, and it's just so wrong. So there are pro bono groups that are handling the cases. Obviously some are more serious than others. I think the kid that has the brain bleed is, that's very serious. The two girls that were shot, one has a broken nose. They probably both do it to a certain extent. And there's another protester I saw got shot in his leg multiple times, and you could see where the rubber bullets are hard. So when they impact the skin, they break open the skin, and it causes this kind of round looking bruise. Yeah. But it can cause internal damage, right? Because these are shot really at a high speed.
Right.
So his leg was just like, wow. I mean, multiple injuries from that. So, I mean, the injuries are countless. I don't think I even know of all of them. It was such chaos.
So you think that you could be in good shape to at least get some sort of money back for what they did?
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to have to pay for the damage to the car. And if there's extra money
on film,
if we're able to get some liability money, I'm actually going to give some of it to help defend some of these other guys that were banged up.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
They did to not only those three people that you spoke about, the two women and the guy, but also what they did to you, that they could have seriously, I don't know if you were driving or not, but if you were driving and they shot it in the back window and that kept going straight through, you could have went through your front window.
No, yeah. You could have hit there were protesters that were still trying to walk out to their cars too, because their cars were parked further down the street. They were getting hit. And in fact, a couple of them put up a mattress to hide behind, and they were using the dumpsters.
Yeah.
None of this was acceptable. I mean, it was just a very dangerous situation for everybody that was there. And there was here, I feel like this is really important to say, I didn't see any looting going on. So whatever looting ended up happening was not coming from the BLM protest. It was coming from somewhere else. That entire day I was there, up until the time we left, and after all this chaos, there still had not been a single store looted in visible sight on Fairfax anywhere around me. So
crazy. It really is.
I mean, I know it happened because I've seen the video now, but what I would like to know too is why is the mainstream media focusing on the looting aspects of this as opposed to the barrage of violence that was happening with the protest? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand this. They were up in their helicopters looking for looting, maybe. I don't know. But I've seen some of these reports, and I'm like, why isn't anybody mentioning the fact that the LAPD literally let loose on a crowd of peaceful protesters on Saturday? Why is that not being discussed?
Tina-Desiree Berg here on Fire Breathing Rob. There's been so much militarization with the police in general. I mean, you can just look at the fatigue that they wear. I mean, it looks like they're about ready, as we talked about before the interview started, like you're in Fallujah. They're throwing stuff at people and, you know, shooting people's car windows out. They're shooting people in the face, and people don't have any weapons to shoot back. I mean, it's a total joke.
No, and then, you know, and then you get the narrative, well, the protesters were throwing things, rocks and water bottles at the police. I'm like, well, yeah, of course they were. They're defending themselves at that point. I mean, how do you not understand that if you engage in a situation where you up the ante in a violent way, that you're eventually not going to get violence returned to you? That's just how it is, right? How is that? So this is, to me, was just an instigation. They could have done this differently if they had been smart or not so militant, meaning if they had just let the protest dissipate on its own, things would have been fine. It seemed to me that was already happening because there was dwindling numbers, you know. I think these, you know, a lot of these were young kids too. They're just, they're out there voicing their social conscious, their opinions. I mean, I remember being 25 and, like, you know, wanting to take on the world. That's normal. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. That's what the First Amendment's for. It's not only protecting, you know, press freedom, but it's also protecting your right to protest, to say when you don't like something that the government's doing. It's necessary if you want a healthy democracy.
Well, Tina, where has the leadership been with Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti?
No, they're not saying anything. You know, at least not anything worthwhile. Neither is Nancy Pelosi. She's standing there with a Bible saying Trump needs to heal the country. What the hell is that shit? They just enable this stuff, really, in my opinion. I think, you know, look, the establishment Democratic Party, the neoliberals in the party, they're not, they have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. And the status quo is protecting the wealthy neighborhoods, protecting the wealthy that donate to their campaigns, protecting the corporations that donate to their campaigns. And that's in addition to the military industrial complex that benefits off of selling these items to the police department, right? So the company that sells the triple chaser, for example, they're a military contractor called, I think, Defense Technology. And they also make various forms of tear gas, grenades, other things. But obviously there's money involved in that. So there's a connection is what I'm saying. The connection between money being made to the systemic racism that sustains the ability for these guys to make their money. I mean, this stuff is related, and it needs to be, in my opinion, torn apart.
So you just talked about the establishment. We've been talking about the protests throughout this whole interview. With that, do you feel like these protests will, you know, affect the establishment to finally make some sort of laws against the police? And also, besides that, we talked about this before the interview, these protests need to also, you know, they need to be about police brutality, of course, but they also need to be talking about $5 trillion that the government just stole for regular working Americans that are Black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Asian people. That are getting screwed by the stimulus package, and you know, more and more of these folks are going into poverty for that. So do you feel like not only these protests will push the establishment to do something about economics, and also police brutality, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and the list goes on and on? Yeah,
no, I think that would be a beneficial thing to have happen. But I also think there's some concern within the community that their movement is going to be co-opted by these other things, and they're still quite concerned about systemic racism in the police department. So again, there's a diversity of opinion on where that goes. Personally, I think that solidarity within these groups will eventually play itself out, and that's how we're going to get change, because you need as many groups as possible to push for change, right? You can't just let your brothers and sisters on any of these other groups go it alone. So I think, but I do, and I think people, they need to stay in the streets. They need to not let up. Don't walk away now, right? Now that they're acknowledging that they have to do something, and it might not be sincere. How we make that sincere is by, we have to keep forcing their hand, right? That's my opinion, at least.
So what would you tell the people, and even the people in the news, Chris Cuomo, all these people on CNN, saying like basically these people are just looting and all this stuff like that. So what would you tell the media establishment and also the political establishment that say that all these people that are protesters are thugs, when you know as well as I do, that's total bullshit.
So I would say this, and I've seen that happening, and we have to call them out on this. Look, a lot of these folks, the problem is a lot of these folks are commenting on what's going on from their couches or from their studios. They're not out there in the field seeing, interviewing. They just, that's a scary environment for them to be in. I think a lot of these folks aren't willing to do it. It's a problem. So if you're not willing to do that, at least talk to the folks that are there in the field doing, trying to talk to these folks and trying to film what's going on and getting that information. Because I think the narrative isn't entirely, the narrative being painted by cable news is not authentic. It's not honest. It's not the full picture. And I would imagine that most people, at least if they're not in the older folks that just watch cable news, they're seeing some of this other footage on social media. And I think that's also what's driving the unrest. People are seeing this stuff because of the phone cameras, right? Phone cameras is going to be one of the greatest tools of equalization out there, because now people can say, like, this is what's happening right here, right now.
But the only thing now is with the cameras that a lot of these police and all over the country, they're not showing their badge numbers. So you can't get the badge number.
No.
Like you said, if the cop shot out your window, if you're filming the cop, you might get his face, but you don't have his badge number. So
no, but here's the thing. What needs to happen is the police need to fucking start talking to their brothers in arms. Like, you guys want to tell me that you want the population to trust you and that you're not all racist, then prove it. Because if you see somebody doing this stuff, you need to report them and call them out. Go Serpico on them. Something needs to change here. If you have bad apples in your department, and there are a lot of bad apples, don't tell me it's one or two, and you're not one of those bad apples, you need to be responsible and accountable for that stuff. But here's the thing, these departments are so full of white supremacists. This is not a controversial statement, what I just said.
Yeah, I agree. So it's scary.
It's scary, and this is nothing new. I mean, I'm glad that it's gaining traction and speed, but this has been going on for decades. So, I mean, you could even go back to the COINTELPRO things that we saw. And infiltration, you had folks infiltrating the Black Panthers to try to bust them. Weather Underground, like all of these.
MLK.
SPS, MLK, yeah.